Hi, and welcome back to Engine Shop Joe. I got a call a couple weeks ago from one of our techs in Pennsylvania, and they were moving a big RT from a job site just down the road to a work yard that the job site had rented. Uh, a lot of times, big jobs, because they have so many machines there, they'll rent a piece of property from a farmer or whoever so that they can put the machines or the equipment that they're not using at the moment in this yard. They'll also take equipment over there to do service on it, reconfigure it. So they were taking this RT down the road to this yard. And at the job site, the RT had no problems. And when they left the job site and started down the road and they started to get road speed up, it just started chugging and died. So they coasted over, it didn't want to start. They found the fuel filters half empty, so they filled them up, got it started, made it about 100 feet, and it died again. So they took all the fuel lines off, blew them all out, checked everything out, and they called me and I told them, why don't you go get new fuel filters? So they hunted down a couple fuel filters, which, believe it or not, wasn't that easy. And things are getting a little bit harder to find these days, especially if they're not real common numbers. And this didn't have a real common primary filter on it. So they found the filters, they put them on, and the machine went about 150 feet and it stalled again. So they called me back and we talked a little bit, and now we're going to see what they found. So there's a few things going on in this picture. I know it's a busy picture. Right there, you see those orange arrows? That's fuel coming from the tank to the filter. A lot of times they've got those gate valves, that's the yellow handle to shut the fuel off when they service them. That way fuel doesn't get all over the ground or whatever. So the fuel comes in, and here's the important part. It comes into the filter head, and it doesn't go down into the filter. It turns and goes through a fuel heater. You can see on the right, I've got arrows that show the fuel goes in the end of the fuel heater and comes out the side. So when it comes out the side, which is towards where that plug plugs in, but inside the filter head, it goes down into the filter on the unfiltered side of the fuel, through the media, and back up the center. The green arrow represents clean fuel going back up out of the filter and then on into the gear pump, electric pump, gear pump, to the secondary filter that's on the engine. There's some information on the right that you can read that just gives you some more details about that. So the tech called me back and we had another conversation, and he's a very smart guy. So we're bouncing ideas off of each other because the goal is to try to figure out what's wrong as quickly as possible, especially since the machine's on the side of a road. Mind you, it's not a main road, but it's still a road. So you've got to put out placards and everything else. And we want to get the machine off the road ASAP. So we're talking to each other about what we think it could be. And I held my position about, I think there's a fuel restriction someplace. And he had looked up in the filter head with a flashlight, had the lines off, blew through air through it. And the one on the engine he cleaned out, blew through all the lines. And so I said, well, let me know what you find. And we always like to do that so that we can broadcast that to everybody else, like I'm broadcasting to you. So if you run into it, then you'll have an idea where to look. So he called me back in about a day, and he said, hey, I'm going to send you some pictures. Look what we found. I've seen a lot of things over the years, but I never saw this. And this was algae and dirt and twigs that were packed up inside that fuel heater. And if he hadn't taken the time to take that heater out and just investigate, we never would have found out that the fuel has to go through it. There is no bypass. And it was plugged up. Everything else was clean. The tank had been cleaned of algae probably a year or two before, but no one had ever taken that out, and over time it just slowly plugged up. So that was our problem. We cleaned it out, put it all back together, and the machine ran great. And here's a photo of what one of these machines looks like. This one happens to be loaded on a trailer, but as you can see, they're a pretty big machine. Thanks for joining me. See you next time.